है राष्ट्र निर्माता।
Welcome to Sports 360 Champion Speak, your weekly show on the national broadcaster of India's international news network, DD India. Well, this particular program completes a year and we have not one but two guests this week who are legends of the game in the true sense. Two guests from two sides of the world, India and Lithuania. They both have ancient historical ties, perhaps as old as the game chess. Lithuanian language and Sanskrit have similarities in many ways. Chess is called Shachmate in Lithuania, while it is called Shatranj in India. Lithuania also celebrates two Independence Day, one Restoration of State Day on 16th of Feb and Restoration of Independence Day on March 11th. Well, India and Lithuania are both democracies that value their independence and respect individual freedoms. Both countries also have a culture of chess. Not a coincidence that Viswanathan Anand, world champion from 2007 to 2013, and the Speaker of Lithuanian Parliament, Viktorija CmilyteNielsen, have a connection. Well, Viktorija is a chess grandmaster and a two-time Lithuanian champion and is the Speaker of the country's Parliament. Her family has been instrumental in helping Anand in his pursuit for chess glory for close to a decade. The impact of chess in the Baltic nation is huge, as it usually conducts an Independence Day chess tournament as part of its celebration. So what better way to immerse ourselves into that tradition than by talking chess, politics and careers with India's greatest chess player Viswanathan Anand and Lithuanian Speaker Viktorija, and their common link, Nielsen, who has coached Viswanathan Anand while he was the undisputed king of chess. Welcome to this special broadcast on Sports 360 Champion Speak. Let me begin by asking both Viktorija and Vishy, COVID times, what has it taught us to value more in life?
Hi everyone, it's a pleasure to be here today. Hi Vishy, it's so good to see you. Actually COVID times have been extremely testing for everyone, and I'm sure both in India and Lithuania. But it probably has taught us first and foremost that some things are superfluous in life and some things we can easily do without. And then there are other things that, well, we have to value more, like small pleasures of meeting a chess friend and playing somewhere in a cafe that with just simple wooden pieces. This kind of pleasure has been unfortunately not accessible for many of us for a while now. And I'm sure that I'm speaking for many, many people when I say that we so look forward to going back to the normal, usual style of life.
Well, it has taught me to, just like Viktorija said, value certain things, especially very unexpected pleasures, like suddenly doing a joint program with Viktorija, which I would not have guessed. Another thing is perhaps a little bit of humility in our ability, humanity's ability to predict the future. 1 year ago, something which most of us had not given any thought to has dominated the world for a whole year, has brought the global economy to a standstill, at least for a while. And going forward, I think a little bit of humility, not overestimating our ability to predict things and to solve them is well in order. Besides that, of course, being forced to spend more time with your family and more time at home, you realize, did we really need a virus to teach us that? So.
Okay, COVID saw a Netflix series, the Queens Gambit. How has it explored the game and the player's mind in particular?
Well, I think the Queen's Gambit is a very beautiful made series, and I was really happy to see how it has dominated, the headlines. And so many people who had nothing to do with chess have come to me here in Lithuania and said, okay, wow, this chess game, it is so beautiful. We've just been watching the whole series. But I think from the point of view of a chess player, I would say that, well, the main character, she's not overly troubled, at least from the point of view of an average chess player, even though there is conflict in her life. Well, it's obvious, but I think if I would say that I was lacking something in that series, I would say it's conflict, it's the struggle, because as any chess player would say, there are a lot of struggles to go through, both internal and external. So while it was a great hit and did a lot for chess popularity, I think life is even more complicated when it comes to chess players.
Okay.
I think any series will skim over a lot of stuff. I mean, they hint at some of the struggles. They hint at the fact that her natural talent runs up against the rigorous study that Borgo, for instance, puts in, but then they don't really address, as Viktorija pointed out, the struggle to overcome. Okay. Somehow it's understood, she drinks a bit, she can't sleep a few nights, and that is supposed to represent the struggle, and then they move on very quickly. Within the limitations of series, I thought it was brilliant. The chess pieces, the chessboard was accurate for the first time, a white square on H1, those kinds of details, which we obsess about, but they were accurate. There was a lot I could recognize, the open tournament scene, going to the arbiter's desk and looking for the pairing. There are nice things as well. And I think it is no surprise that not only chess players, but so many more people have enjoyed the series.
Well, is politics, very similar to what one sees on the chessboard, or does it have many lessons, for life?
Well, I love the game of chess because it is so straightforward and there is no place for bluffing here. Basically, you have the rules on the chessboard and you are fighting your opponent and you know exactly what he or she can do within the framework of the rules of the games. Politics is obviously completely different because the rules are so much more complex and quite often, vague. So I would say chess is more straightforward and more just in many ways.
Anand, grooming the next champions, what's the process that you follow and how will it help India find the next generation of chess champions?
We started the Viswanathan Anand Academy. My vague inspiration, because you always have some sort of starting point, was to emulate the Botvinnik school. Botvinnik famously was Kasparov's teacher. He was Karpov's teacher as well. And you think, well, if I can do something like that, that would be very exciting. So there's that. The idea is that I pass on not only some of my chess knowledge, but also my experience, my story of not only what do you play in chess, but how do I play it, why I play it. Those kinds of things. And to be a guide and mentor. Far more than a coach, I think my role is more of a guide and mentor. But I'm very excited about it. India has always dominated the junior and sub-junior levels in chess, but we have struggled to replicate that at the absolute top. And I would like to see some of these players develop much further.
Viktorija, are fellow politicians intimidated by the fact that the speaker is a chess grandmaster? Remember, after all, chess grandmaster is a title that gives one respect.
I think they assume that I have it all mapped out, which, I don't mind. So, yes, well, being a chess player and being especially a grandmaster and at some point having won the Lithuania's men's champions title helps in many situations, including in some political situations or tricky negotiations. So it's never a minus.
Vishy, does the chessboard moves influence the way you think in real life?
I think invariably it influences your way of thinking, inevitably. I often, if you imagine that you have an opponent and that he's not going to cooperate with your plans, then I think trying to be objective about matters is maybe one obvious point. But it's a very interesting thing. There have not been that many chess players who have crossed over into politics. And that remains true for both men and women. But especially with women, I think I have a question for Viktorija. What is it about the Baltic region?
A good question. Yes, my colleague Dana Reznitsa-Ozele, she used to be a minister and a long-term parliamentarian. And I think maybe it's the case of, a good example, because I was the one following in her footsteps. Once you have one good example, it tends to draw others in the same direction. But also, perhaps it's easier for in a small country when you're a sports star to cross over to another area, and politics seems to be a very natural way forward. Or a career that kind of runs parallel to a chess career. At least this is how it's seen in the Baltics, that, chess knowledge, chess experience seems to be fitting for a politician.
Vishy, what's the secret of chess grandmasters from the state of Tamil Nadu in India, before and even now?
Grew up in the strongest chess state, and then that process has continued. Clearly, I benefited from the earlier players, and now a lot of youngsters were maybe motivated by me to give it a try. And there's also the intergenerational transfer of knowledge. You have one generation of grandmasters, many of them start academies or coaching classes, they pass it on. When you have a question, there is someone around to ask, you have the ability to discuss. At a different level, I would say it's what used to be the Soviet chess school. Okay. And I think that has passed on in India.
Well, Viktorija, how does one look at the exodus of chess players from one nation to another? Levon Aronian moved from the US, you moved to US from Armenia last week, a few other cases in the past. How does one look at this particular change?
Well, it's hardly a surprise, because there are not so many so-called chess nations in the world, or the countries where, being a chess player or being a famous chess player automatically puts you among the leading sportsmen. So it's normal that people will tend to move to the ones that are magnets. But I think it's very interesting that, for instance, with Vishy's rise, India has turned into a chess country, and now it is, obviously dominating junior chess, just like Vishy said, and has recently won the Olympiad, and has dominated so many events. So the interesting, and I guess the most, must be a most satisfying part of being a chess champion, when you manage to turn or sort of to move your country into becoming a very strong chess nation. And I think this is, exactly what has happened with India.
Well, now, talking about, this question is open for both, influence on chess in the internet age, supercomputers, all this in play, that conventional form is almost out, referring to books that you all enjoyed.
Well, I think it's obvious that it has completely transformed chess, and it has both for good and for bad. But right now, we cannot do without the computers, and that has been the case for several decades already. But I think the interesting part is that I think both Vishy and myself, when we study chess, when we learn chess, we learn from books. And that was the normal way to learn chess. The youngsters nowadays, I'm sure they read some books, maybe they leaf through some chess magazines, but primarily they look at chess online. And that is a huge change. And, there is no going back from that.
Anand, during the lockdown, you tried chess with Aruna, your wife. How did this idea come about, and did it help the game of chess becoming more popular in India?
Yes, I mean, in a way, it was a show, and we were trying to think, what is it we can do with chess? And we thought that is an interesting topic. Imagine if you could convince your spouse and the extension, some other member of your family, to learn chess. And we tried to do it in an amusing way, because a lot of people were interested in chess. Already before the Queens Gambit, chess participation and activity was booming everywhere. And then the Queens Gambit happened. So we were riding a wave. Okay. And there must have been a lot of people who thought, I would like to learn chess, but how do I ask my spouse? And so we tried to capture that a little bit in this show. The thing is, Aruna has actually observed chess for so long. It was hard to explain everything from the basics, because I often assumed that she knew the stuff already. But I think we tried to make it as funny as possible. Hopefully, a lot of people feel awkward about asking their spouse to teach them something. So we try to do it with humor and show that, in fact, I would say it doesn't work only for chess. Maybe it works for many other things.
Viktorija, whether being a Speaker of Parliament, do you balance attack and defense, or, you always play for a draw here because, you need to be somewhere neutral?
Well, as a speaker, you have to settle for a draw most of the time because it's a very compromising role. You have to balance the interests of position and opposition, and it is a very sort of a draw is almost always a good result. But well, in regard to your question, it reminds me what Peter, my husband, often, well, an anecdote he often tells me about Vishy, that once he was telling Vishy that I'm a way too aggressive player, and that maybe that should be somehow changed. And according to Peter, Vishy said that it is insane to try to correct something that is so good. So aggressiveness is not a good, it's not something to, to get rid of in chess. It probably also is a kind of a talent.
Anand, your memories about your interaction with Nielsen, and what changes did he bring to your game when you were preparing for the, the World Chess Championship?
I think I was transitioning a bit between my seconds, and for me, Peter was very helpful in organization. I think his training methods were more modern than mine, as is usually the case with someone younger. And I tried to learn a lot from that. He kept me abreast of many, many developments. On top of that, he was very structured in his thinking, and I'm not. So I found it easy before a game. Literally, if I had to ask someone quickly, what is it I'm supposed to do today, I could ask him. And in that sense, we worked extremely well. He's phenomenal with information, and he's very dedicated. And shouldn't forget that also he was simply a very, very good friend. And we had many enjoyable sessions.
Okay.
I'll tell you a couple of India connections with him. So once he told me, I'm dying. I need to go out and get some dal makhani and palak paneer. And I was very touched by this. And in fact, it was true. We had spent a few days without going to an Indian restaurant, and he was actually yearning for this. Another nice thing was when Viktorija and Peter started talking about Sholay all the time. And I thought, is there any way they could have seen this movie? And I was really surprised. But it turns out Sholay is the town where Viktorija is from. So that's one connection.
Well, this question is again open to both. Gandhiji and his teachings have a major influence in the lives of India and Lithuania's freedom. How does both chess grandmasters see, this particular man's influence?
Well, there are a lot of connections, as you say, and one interesting connection that I found out about recently is that, well, Gandhi's soulmate Herman Kallenbach was born in Lithuania, and there is actually even a sculpture to both of those men in Lithuania, in a region by the sea, and so it's a beautiful connection that apparently has existed, and that has been an important influence on Gandhi's life.
I did not know that at the start, but you find that Gandhiji's imprint is everywhere. In countries all over the world, you think maybe they're not familiar with this history, but at some level, his struggle resonates there, and there are people who are inspired by him. And unfortunately, chess is probably a game where non-violence is not going to be very helpful. So if anything, you'll have to modify Gandhiji's sayings. But otherwise, I think he's very relevant for our times, more than ever. Because we are faced in many, many countries. The question is, how do you stop one group from exercising violence against another group? And how do you assert your rights without provoking the other side? And I think there's a lot to learn from him there. It's probably more true now than ever before.
Well, the connection doesn't stop there. India and Lithuania also share many Sanskrit words. How does this influence come about? especially when it comes to Sanskrit being used so prominently, in the local dialect?
Well, it's a very interesting question that has fascinated scholars for many years, and I'm told that scholars of linguistics, of languages, they tend to learn Lithuanian just because it is such an important language in order to understand how our common ancestors used to speak.
Okay.
Why is it that Lithuanian language has changed so little as compared to others? Well, that has maybe something to do with the Lithuanian national character. And we tend to be rather closed and sort of keep together. But it's clear that the language is something that, well, Lithuanians are extremely proud of and protective. And it is very interesting to see that there are so many similarities with Sanskrit and so many common words.
Well, Lithuania also celebrates two Independence Day. One, that's the Restoration of State Day on Feb 16th and Restoration of Independence Day on March 11th, which is today. Give us the reasons for these twin celebrations that Lithuania follows.
Well, yes, it's true that we have more than an average country. And back in 1918, the February 16th was a very important day. That was when our statehood was restored. Okay. And obviously that was in very difficult, very unclear historical circumstances. Well, the 11th of March, when we are talking, this is already the recent history, 31 years ago, when we declared our independence. And well, both of those days are incredibly important. And well, also important part is that the 11th of March obviously wouldn't be possible without the 16th of February. So they are very much interconnected, they are linked, and we are, well, equally proud of both of them.
Well, Lithuania also showed the world, ways on how to tackle climate change. Do you somewhere see now India showing the way forward, or India taking it forward, especially when it comes to addressing this global issue?
Well, this issue is obviously affecting all the countries and all the continents. And when we speak of Lithuania, in Lithuania we talk about green policies. It's clear that well, we are part of the EU, and it is important for us to go together with this EU leadership in tackling climate change. And it is true that in our policies, we pay a lot of attention to the promoting green economy solutions. But that is, of course, made easier by the fact that we are a reasonably small nation, that we are a very green country, and that we don't have that much heavy industry to give up in order to make this transition to the more green economy happen.
Anand, have you ever visited Lithuania, and is it on your bucket list in the post-pandemic, new world order?
No, I have not visited the country. I would really like to do so, and I hope that will happen very soon. But I have not had the chance to. I've been to Estonia and Latvia, but not to Lithuania yet. So that is pending very much.
Well, a word from both on, especially rivalries on board. Do you somewhere sit back and enjoy an outing, a meal or a drink with your opponents?
I will be very honest. I do that with some of my rivals. There's some with whom it works, there's some with whom it doesn't. Maybe I can't imagine Viktorija having that problem, but let's hear her word.
Well, I agree with Vishy on this one. I mean, I've always found it very charming about chess that once the game is over, you will discuss what has happened during the game, even in the case when one of the sides has had a painful experience. Normally you will analyze it a little bit, or at least discuss it. But it doesn't mean necessarily that you will hug and go to have a beer in a nearby bar. Most likely, it's not necessarily the case. But generally, the friendships in chess that you keep despite of having interesting and wins and losses at the chess game, they are very, very valuable.
Well, do you see chess diplomacy having a larger role in developing relations or exchange programs between the two nations?
I think very much so. And well, obviously, in these pandemics times, internet gives us all the opportunities to connect the countries, to connect, schools perhaps in some kind of chess competitions. So there is such a wide array of possibilities, and I think we should take advantage of them, especially for the benefit of our young kids who are just getting interested in chess and who really want to connect to their friends from all over the world.
Well, Anand, financial technology is something that Lithuania is second best in Europe. How do you see, any other sectors that the Baltic nation can help or, be a game changer that, you've heard of?
A couple of, I think, things that people might not expect. For instance, I was quite surprised to realize that Lithuania was once part of a very large empire when it was in this union with Poland. I mean, I also tend to think of Lithuania as a small country, but it was once a very substantial power in that area. The other thing, I was not particularly aware of the fintech connection, though I will look it up now. But from once it hit me that many Lithuanian surnames end with this KAS and so on, I immediately connected the dots, and I realized most of the Soviet basketball team was probably Lithuanian, and they have a huge, and of course their average height. I mean, you just have to look at Viktorija. So their average height is very impressive.
Viktorija, what's the reason for Indian cuisine and Indian delicacies being a big hit with people in Lithuania?
That is absolutely the case, and we have some amazing restaurants. And when I have a particularly successful day at work, me and Peter sometimes order palak paneer and peshavari naan. I'm sorry for the pronunciation, but we love it.
This question is for both grandmasters. Did losing teach you more than winning in life, especially on the board?
Almost certainly, yes. I think my first lessons came from losses. And once you see the pattern, you realize you can even learn from your wins.
Okay.
But initially, I think wins make you complacent. But once a loss has forced you to confront or address something, I find the next time around you realize that if you're objective about your win, maybe there's a lot you can improve even after that.
Okay.
Well, I think, losing will definitely teach you a lot of lessons unless it kills you. So I think it's very important it doesn't scar you too much. And well, I've had an experience of being of winning silver medals in European Championships 3 times, and it made that it meant that in the end always there was something that I was lacking. But in the end I became the champion, and well, probably I managed to learn from some losses. So I think it's very important that it doesn't scar you too much, but you manage to get these practical lessons and to learn from your losses.
Well, do you see chess being more dominant through online competitions, or do you prefer the conventional route of facing your opponent across that 64 checkered board?
I personally feel, go back to what I said at the beginning, it's very easy to extrapolate and try to predict the future, but I will wait to see how things shape up. I guess we were playing online before 2020. Okay. So I think the ratio will change, but it won't go from 70-30 to 30-70. It'll go somewhere in the middle. I think online chess will play an expanded role, but hopefully not a dominant one. I still want the I still want to see my opponent over the board and to be at tournaments and things like that. I don't think the Queens Gambit would have been very successful if she had been playing online all the time, frankly.
Viktorija, one final word. Do you miss the game and your association with the chessboard and the charm of traveling to newer places and competitions, which now looks almost impossible, caught up with legislative work and being busy with the Lithuanian parliament?
Yeah, I definitely miss this kind of life, and I think there is nothing more charming than being in the wake of things and being, an active professional chess player. But well, things change, and it's nice to have all those good memories and also to have a chance to talk about chess, just like we do today.
Well, memories are something that we live with, and memory is the glue that binds our lives together. Well, everything what we are today is because of amazing memories, and the game of chess teaches us that the blunders are all there on the board waiting to be made. Well, chess is beautiful enough to waste your life for, and these two grandmasters are a prime example of the grit and determination to prove a point on that 64 checkered board. Thank you both my guests for taking time out to make this one-year program special, and a special mention to the Lithuanian speaker on their Independence Day on March 11th. Well, that's it in this edition. We're going to be back again with another guest, another legend of the game, next time on Sports 360 Champions Speak. Until then, goodbye. Take care.